So what generally we have a typical organigram. So you have two organizations, let's say one school in one country and the other one in another country. So these schools have no formal ties. The formal ties, let's say this is the director, these are the teachers, these are the tutors. Yeah. So they have no formal ties. But within these organizations you have members of the Jamaat who are assigned with the seat here, and they have their networks which reach across and which overcome this institutional limits. So this helps us to understand, for example, how a teacher who worked in Uzbekistan for school comes to Albania and goes to Germany and perhaps comes to the US. This is not based on organic ties, of course, and everyone would say there are no organic ties, but within the Jamaat this is possible and is used by the Jamaat to ensure the mobility, but also by the individuals to gain mobility. And this is a point which is, to my mind, not stressed enough in the Turkish context, because they see the individuals as like victims of the Jamaat. But on the other hand, the individuals have their aims, and if you have met like a person from a Turkish village, 20 years old, who is now a member of an educational institution and who is given responsibility over pupils, who is organizing things, he really feels self-respected, and this self-respect he achieves by these links. Because without these links, he would not have made his way out of his village. Yeah, so the Jamaat is the unity which helps the individual to conduct its or give its work religious meaning, even if it's in the secular context. We will come to this point later, in 5 minutes. Yes, to understand this, we have to have a slight look on the Gülen discourse, which I call, or someone else called, Tajdeed by conduct, which is not a reformist theology, but a means to make reality compliant with Islamic needs. What do I mean by this? Fethullah Gülen was able to transform concepts like Hizmet, like Tabligh, Dawah, and other principles like jihad into the field of education, portraying the Prophet himself as a teacher. So teaching secular subjects within the Gülen understanding is Islamic service, and is underlined by the fact that he is strongly referring to Said Nursi, who sees the study of the creation as a means to study the Creator himself. So this secular knowledge, which we would call secular, is not secular in this sense. Another major contribution was the reconciliation of Turkish nationalism, Islam, religious pluralism, and globalization. Gülen underwent a considerable change regarding his notion of nationalism, patriotism, pluralism, and globalization within the last 20 years. So what he managed was to expand Turkish nationalism to local forms of patriotism, to see the open world as a chance for Turkish Islam, not a threat to it, to transform the inner Islamic tolerance into a general religious one. In Gülen's view today, Muslims can profit from engagement with the modern world and other cultures. This may be the result of the educational politics since the 1970s, which strengthened the movement. A group mainly deprived of higher education was transformed into a high educated group capable for dialogue and engagement with the world. Yeah. So, yeah. The transformation of the highly Islamic Jamaat discourse into a general one is justified by Gülen. So, within the Jamaat, we are talking in Islamic terms, but to go out of the Jamaat, you need to adopt your discourse. So, this graphic may show this. It's the time and spatial development of the Nurju community coming from the Jamaat with its own spheres, the houses of lights, the sphere of the Jamaat, giving and gaining access to other spheres. First, the Islamic audience in Turkey by creating religious publications, not stressing too much the Jamaat identity, but coming to more general Islamic issues. And then we have the expansion to abroad through the transformation of Islamic principles into a general language of moral. So let me conclude. I hope that the paper has shown that the success of the Gülen movement in the field of education has multiple dimensions. The Gülen movement, as we see it today, has a history which is rooted in that of the Turkish Republic. Organizational structures and the content of the discourse develop in close relationship with the political history of Turkey and was shaped by the events in world history after 1990. Fethullah Gülen has managed to lead his followers into the modern world, but within a religious framework. So the general religious framework remains the same, but is expanded to other spheres. This framework has a discursive and organizational side. He was able to lead the very close Jamaat, which it was in the 70s, coming from this Nurju context, to new horizons, opening it and initiating new forms of Islamic engagement. So teaching is a form of Islamic engagement now. Decisive for the success of Gülen's ideas is the combination of the conventional and conservative arguments clubbed in new methods of implementation that allow them to reach new target groups and justify the activities of the movement. His concept of Islamic reform made it possible that the Jamaat remained its structure and discourse at the core of the network, while it expanded at the borders to become a worldwide movement. Just following the metaphor of Mevlana, the metaphor of the whirling dervish, who has one foot based firmly in the Tawhid and the other circulating everywhere around the world. Thank you.